Good morning again, and please excuse the interruption. We had a little technical difficulties. We were talking about the accessing the closed captioning for board meetings. You can ensure that you have the most current version of Zoom installed on your computer or mobile device. Click on the Zoom meeting link prior to the start of the board meeting. Please use your name when entering. You will be initially placed in a waiting room. Once you have been admitted to the meeting, you will be able to view the meeting with closed captions by clicking on the CC button on the bottom of your Zoom window. Please only use this option if you require closed captioning. At this time, I'd like to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and we updated public comment changes. Online speaker slips will be available, and the public will be able to call in using a computer or smartphone via a link which will be provided following submission of a comment form. A telephonic option will also be available. Once connected, the public speaker will be placed in an online waiting room. While in the waiting room, the public speaker should watch or listen to the meeting via the outlets above, as they will not see or hear the meeting while they are connected and waiting to speak. When the agenda item upon which the individual would like to comment is addressed, the speaker will be announced in the meeting as to when it is his or her time to speak to the school board of trustees. The speaker will then be moved to the meeting for comment. TV 30 is allowing only audio at this time, adding a full screen public comment when the speaker is talking. Individual speakers shall be allowed no more than 2 minutes to address the board on this item for the sake of time. Yellow comment form only for items only on the agenda. Blue comments for items not listed on the agenda. I'd like to do a quick introduction. We have Julio Hernandez, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources. Ahmed Shikola-Salami, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. Ed Dialazo, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. Dr. Janelle Woodward, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. Trustee Mark Miller, Trustee Joan Larson, Trustee Valerie Arkin, Vice President of the Board, Jamie Yee, and President of the Board, Steve Maher. Dr. Dave Haglund, Superintendent. Roseanne Pryor, Administrative Assistant. And Pat Gannon, Chief Communication. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll go ahead and move approval of the agenda.
Second?
I'll
Okay.
second.
Trustee Larson,
Aye.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Arkin,
Aye.
Trustee Yee,
Aye.
and Trustee Maher, aye. Okay, and public comments. Do we have any, Patrick? We have one, I think, don't we?
Yes, President Maher, we have one public comment from Michelle Verkylen. Michelle, are you on?
Good morning, Michelle.
Hello, thank you. Good morning. Used to saying good evening to all of you. A little switch today. Good morning, President Maher, members of the board, Dr. Haglund, members of the cabinet, and our community. I am Michelle Verkylen, President of the Association of Pleasanton Teachers. APT would like to thank you for this special board meeting this morning to discuss and hopefully approve the MOU we have on the agenda. I'd like to thank all the members of our bargaining team for their endless efforts on behalf of our members. There were many hours put in this summer to work on the concepts and wording of this tentative agreement. We hope the spirit of this MOU will be honored along with the words inside of it. Our APT members want to feel safe and supported in their working environment. They want to have all the resources they need in order to be able to serve the students of Pleasanton in the best ways that they have. So thank you in considering this, TA, and hopefully an approval for it. And again, as always, we do the work that we do because Pleasanton students deserve the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Stay safe and healthy. Okay, this brings us to item number 4, report discussion, report and possible action. Julio?
Yes, good morning, President Maher, Superintendent Haglund, Board of Trustees, Executive Cabinet, staff, and community. Before the board is item 4.1, which is the Pleasanton Unified School District has entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Association of Pleasanton Teachers regarding the return to work for the 2021 school year in light of the novel corona COVID-19 pandemic. Per the Governor of California's order on July 17, 2020, and the California Department of Public Health, COVID-19 and reopening in-person learning framework for K-12 schools of California 2021 school year. To support this, instructional options have been developed with input having been gathered from the district's labor partners, individual educators, administrators, and parents. The instructional options put into practice at individual sites and or district-wide shall be triggered based on the needs of the district, the direction of the Board of Trustees, and the guidance from the state of California and the Alameda County Public Health Department. So before the board is the memorandum of understanding. There is a financial impact. There is a $90,000 for hotspots, which are the internet devices that people could carry with them in order to access the internet for our teachers. That is being funded through the CARES Act. There's also an additional $166,000 for personal protective equipment, or PPE, and that's being funded through the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund and some from the general fund. So that is the financial impact. I will share with the board and community some highlights. There is language there about safety conditions of employment, which address PPE, health screener, which is a passive health screener, which requires our employees to take a health screener before they enter work, which is then screened by their supervisors. A notification system in the event that we have a positive case here at school. Professional responsibilities. All bargaining unit members are required to continue to abide by all legal requirements, board policies, administrative regulations, the California standards for the teaching profession. They must also have live daily interaction with students as defined as synchronous instruction per SB 98. We agreed to the definitions, which is on section 3, professional responsibilities. We defined synchronous as teaching involves the use of live instruction tools, EI, Zoom, and or Google Meets, etc. And the teacher is engaged with students in live real-time instruction. Also direct instruction includes synchronous and asynchronous teaching, online activities, video lessons, and or large and small group classroom settings. Also independent learning includes any work completed without concurrent interaction with the teacher and may include written assignments, written exercises, worksheets, assessments, online activities, video lessons, and individual and group work. It also provides that all teachers and staff must abide by the IEPs, the individual education plans are assigned to students, as well as 504 requirements. It also, through SB 98, requires TK to K teachers to have 180 minutes of instruction, grades 1 to 3, 230 minutes of instruction, grades 4 to 12, 240 minutes of instruction, at minimum 15 to 25 minutes of live synchronous instruction. The maximums are established by the principal's schedules with input from staff as the schedules are being approved by the principals. On Wednesdays, there was a mandatory professional development, mandatory collaboration time, as well as there was mandatory instruction, as well as attendance taking per SB 98. There's also language there that covers partial return. Should we, in our continuum of our plan, require that we return partially back to to school. It requires that the schedules again are being set via collective bargaining agreement 4.1.1, which are established by the principal with input with the staff. It also requires a 10-day notice of staff if we are to transition both into partial or full return, with 3 days being granted to the teachers to be able to prepare for that switch. Again, even though those 3 days are granted, they are still required to meet the SB 98 requirements of attendance taken in instruction. That is both for the switch from full remote to partial, from partial to full return. Mandated services, IEPs, and 504s, I kind of briefly discussed that already. All staff are required to meet those requirements. In leaves, there is 80 hours of emergency leave that's being granted through the federal government. There's a cap of $511 per day. Some of our teachers make more than $511 per day. So the teacher may opt to use their leave in order to make up that difference, so that they are paid a full check for that day should they need to use that emergency leave time. Stipends are suspended during this time unless the district decides to reactivate athletics or any other activity that requires stipend. I discussed the return to work, the 10-day notice. This MOU expires June 30th, or it may be modified or extended by mutual agreement of both parties. It also establishes that we may have to come back to the table to continue negotiations based on the fact that it's a fluid circumstance. We are constantly getting changes in guidance from a number of agencies, particularly from our county health department. And those changes may result in impact and effects to our employees, which requires us to negotiate that, as well as conditions of employment. So we will continue to negotiate those. That in a nutshell is highlights of the MOU. If there are any questions, happy to entertain them.
Trustee Miller, you have questions?
Yeah, so it's 10. So if we want, this is about sort of the return to school in person. How do we foresee making this decision in order to start the clock on the 10 days?
So if we were notified or the board made a decision to reopen school either partially and full remote, once that decision is taken, we need to take into account a 10-day transition so that we could have staff pivot, prepare themselves to be able to go into the classroom, get their classrooms situated and together. So that is the intent of the language. In 3 of those 10 days are for them to physically come back and get their classrooms put together in order for instruction to take place. So that 10-day will trigger once the board makes a decision to either return back partially or fully.
So, and today in the newspaper, I was reading that Contra Costa has opened up, let's just say, the ability to apply for K-6, hybrid return to school. And so if Alameda County did the same, would we at that point call a special board meeting to address that and potentially start the clock, do we think? Or we just wait till the next regularly scheduled board meeting, or how do we see that?
So that would be the mechanism.
If I could jump in here, please. Sure. You'll recall that in July on the 14th, you approved a reopening plan that had a phased reentry. Our intention at this point in time is to return to that plan. And we believe, given the information that we have right now, that's the most likely scenario, because we would have to be able to implement all the precautionary measures that are established by the health department at that time. So right now, that plan still fits within the current guidance from the health plan. So I think for everybody's benefit, it's great to know that there's a plan in place. Those 10 days give us the time to make adjustments based on new information that we would get from the health department. And yes, if we did not have a previously scheduled regular meeting that fit in line with the timeline, we could call a special board meeting so that you would have the opportunity to discuss it. But I want everybody to have some confidence that there is a plan in place that was developed through a collaborative process with the teachers and the site managers. And as best as we can, if we can step into that plan, that keeps everybody kind of anchored in a plan that was developed collaboratively and doesn't require that we restart the process completely.
That's good. I guess the one other thing that we didn't envision back then is this concept of applying for the ability to restart, right? And so, and again, in Contra Costa, it's not just that you can decide to restart, you have to apply for the ability to restart. And that application process itself takes 10 days. So it's almost as if we make a decision, okay, what we can, we will, we apply, and then we get yes, let's say, and then then the 10 days kind of starts in a way, I would guess, right? So
I would suggest that if the health department gives us the authority to reopen schools, the waiver process becomes moot.
No, but would we, but I guess what I'm saying is if they give this ability with a waiver, then we have to decide whether we're going to seek a waiver.
That would be correct. And that would be a process that we would apply through the Alameda County Office of Public Health. Although we do live very close to Contra Costa County, we are in a completely different county and make their own decisions. And as of right now, the position of Alameda County Public Health Department is that they're not considering waivers at this time.
That's why our hair is much longer than people's in Contra Costa County. And then, so I don't want to dominate this, but my last question is just for clarity. What are the synchronous learning requirements based in this MOU for the public safety?
So the teachers are required to engage our students virtually, live. So that is what the synchronous requirement is. There is a minimum of 15 to 25 minutes, but again, the maximums are being established by the principals and those schedules. So at the secondary level, it is based on their periods. At the elementary level, it is based on either their blocks or their sections that are being worked out or have already been worked out with staff and the principals. So that is the minimum requirement. That's not the maximum. As I visited schools and others have as well, teachers are investing more than the minimum time with our students.
Is that per subject, Julio?
Yes, depending on the block, Steve, that the principals have determined. That was the current language. It has been an existing language. So that is an expectation, Steve. But again, that is being worked out within the sites with that principal. And they've been working on that for quite some time, and we are implementing. So I believe right now, the majority, if not all of our elementary schools are in blocks.
Do you anticipate different bell schedules, or will we remain the same?
Janelle could possibly help me out, but I believe that the bell schedules are pretty standard. There may be some tweaking, and the reason why it's standard is not only do we have to deal with the instructional piece, but also the meal piece. There has to be a schedule by which we are also providing meals for our students. And those may change as we discuss partial return or full return. That may take some tweaking from a virtual world into a physical world, which again, the MOU addresses that as well.
And the 4G hotspots, how will the teachers get those? Come to the site to get them, or?
Great question. So they will be able to fill out an Inform K-12 form, which will include their home address. They will be delivered to us here at the district office. They will be configured, and then they will be mailed to that staff member. So that staff member does not need to come to pick it up.
And Julio, could you say again the reason, just for the public's sake, the reason why the hotspots for teachers was recommended?
So there's a couple of reasons. One is, I think it's become kind of evident. There are blackouts, there are energy issues, and that teacher will be able to take that hotspot and go to a place where hopefully there is internet access so they continue their instruction. It also providing that some of our staff may not have the newest and the latest internet access, meaning the 5G or the 4G. So providing them a higher level of internet will facilitate instruction for our students and community. It also facilitates staff being able to provide the instruction from home versus necessarily coming to their classroom, although that option is open for staff. They may come to their classroom and teach from the classroom if need be. But should we have a blackout here in one of our schools, they're able to take that hotspot and continue the instruction.
I just wanted to elaborate on that as well in terms of the original question about the synchronous instruction. Our teachers are engaging in quite a bit of synchronous instruction. In fact, there are many teachers that are having elementary teachers up to 8 or more Zooms a day. They're doing a lot of one-on-one assessments too. So not all of the synchronous instruction, some will be whole group, but there's a lot that happens at the elementary level that is small group as well. And that can just kind of go and go and go all day. So we've been very pleased with what we've been seeing so far with that. And in terms of the bell schedules, we're not really seeing those change right now. The principals are moving forward with the instructional blocks, and at the secondary level, according to the bell schedules that have been established there too. Some shifts on Wednesday, just a little bit to meet the needs of the MOU, but students do have live daily contact with the teacher every single day.
And may I add to that, Janelle, it's not just the teachers in the classroom. It's the speech pathologist, the psychologist, everyone is required to produce that time. So we are, in the case of our IEPs or the 504s, or providing SEL instruction or ELD instruction or enrichment or intervention, that is also additional blocks. So again, it's not just our teachers, it's all of APT members who are accessing synchronous time.
One question on in going to the classroom to do the teaching, working from their classroom. I had heard earlier that the teachers were having to request to be able to do that every single time they went, but I think the MOU specifies that they don't need to do that for every day. They can request it. They can set a schedule or something like that. Is that true?
That is correct, Mark. So it's a positive, meaning that they can come in. They still need to fill in the screener so that they meet the requirements for county health. They are still asked to let the principal know so that we know who's on the campus, one, but two, so that we could assign the cleaning crew to go to that area to clean those classrooms. So that they can ask, it's only when there's a violation of the rules, meaning that they're congregating or they're not reporting in or other issues may come up, that the principal may request that bargaining unit member not to come in. But again, I believe would be far and few in between. I think everybody's being very careful, very cautious about our guidance, and no one wants to get COVID. No one wants to get anybody sick. So I think we're not having any of those issues. So no, they're not required to ask every single time they come, and they just need to let the principal know that they are coming for those reasons, for cleaning and ensuring who's all there on the site.
And Trustee Miller, just to respond to that, the principals have also established some protocol and some forms that are efficient at their site, so that if there's regular schedules that have been established by the teachers, they have ways to monitor that, so it's not as cumbersome for the teachers or the administrators.
Do we have the air conditioning on for those teachers that are coming in? Julio, do you know?
Is the air conditioners working? I believe they are.
Those that are coming in.
I'm sorry?
For those teachers that have chosen to come in and teach from their classroom, are the air conditionings working and up okay?
I believe so. If not, we would have heard if there was a malfunction, but we have not heard anything. So I believe that's a positive.
Okay.
But Ahmad, maybe you can chime in on that if you are on the call. I don't see him, but I believe they all are working.
Now, Julio, the amount of money, the 160,000, I thought I heard for PPE, is most of that for when we do open partially and then start moving forward?
That's correct. There are some of that PPE has already been ordered, not all of it. Obviously, we don't have the space to store, but we want to make sure that we have some of it available so that when we open, a lot of it, as you know, may be consumables, such as the facial coverings or gowns in the event of our severe classes that have toileting. Those require other PPE.
Right.
So it's just a total amount, but I want to be clear that's for the year, and it's only going to be used really when we come back into a partial or full return. But we do have some ordered and so that we have it in stock.
So if we had to open up in 2 months, we would be ready?
I believe so. Amy Nichols has done a great job in producing a PPE plan, and both business and HR have worked together in the illness intervention prevention plan, IPP, which we believe we will be ready to deal with the PPE plan, as well as dealing with the ingress and egress of our sites for staff.
I assume we're ordering this PPE through ACOE that's gotten a shipment, that gets the shipment of it, or how are we ordering from somewhere else?
So I believe we did get a shipment from the county, and I'll let Ahmad, if you could share the other piece.
Sure. So yeah, we have received our shipments from the county, the majority of them. There might be another shipment coming in. So in terms of the face shields and the cloth masks, we have those at hand, and we do have some disposables at hand, and then the additional items that would be required. And so what we're also doing is we're not buying for the entire year. We're buying to have like a 60-day to 90-day supply, just so that depending on our return, right? So if we don't return, we don't want to have all of these extra supplies, but we have received our shipment from the county in terms of the face mask and the shields.
Thank you, Mark, for asking those questions. I had similar questions, and I'm sure this would be our plan anyway, but I just would like to reiterate, if anything changes from the Alameda County Health Department or the county's point of view about the ability to have a waiver or to reopen school, I'd like us to immediately have it on the very next agenda or a special board meeting to have the conversation about that. Because I'd like to see us back in school as soon as possible, assuming that we can do so safely.
I had a question. Oh, go ahead.
I was just responding to Trustee Larson that we'd be happy to provide that information and have that conversation.
My question is, Dr. Haglund, can you go over the waiver process again, just so everybody understands it?
So probably not in the detail that you might be expecting. I can provide that to you in the weekend memo if that would be helpful. But from a 30,000 foot view, first we have to come off of the wait list. Then we have to have the authority granted to us by the health department to submit waivers, because the waivers go directly to the health department. They have to approve the waivers, then they go to the state, which approves them as well, considering the data that's at play in the county, and then we're granted the opportunity to reopen. The waivers currently are limited to, there was some initial confusion because the conversation around the waiver was for K-8 school districts, as opposed to grade levels in all school districts. So that has since been clarified. But the focus is still in grades TK through 6, not above. And that's based on the data, the health data that the department is tracking, and the belief that elementary school age students under the age of 10, frankly, I think is what the science says, are less likely to be carriers of the virus, or at least have significant impacts from the virus, immediate impacts. It's not completely clear what the long-term consequences for a student that's asymptomatic. So they're not necessarily showing symptoms, but they're carrying the virus. So there's a lot of science still to be understood. Although I absolutely want us to bring kids back, this breaks my heart that they're at home and we're not having the opportunity to engage with them, and the teachers are not having the opportunity to connect with them like they typically do at the beginning of the school year. And so we do want to be able to bring people back in whatever way we can, whether that's through a full reopening of elementary schools or targeted services to groups of students, given updated health guidance. We're looking at every single option. The waiver is just one of those options. Ed, did you want to add any color to that?
No, sir, that was really good. That's the way I read it as well. It's really tied to the overall disease conditions for the county. And also, as you mentioned, Dr. Haglund, the tracking on the state's county monitoring list. As of today, we are still on that list. And in order to get off the list, it is a 14 consecutive day tracking or using the metrics of declining the infections, how many people are we testing. There's a whole metric system of how to get off that list. But as of right now, we're still on the list and waiting for that 14-day window to get off that list. And then recommendations would come from the county public health.
We even started the 14 days, Ed? Have we even started the 14 days, or are we still just?
Yeah, that I don't know that amount of detail, Steve, where we are in the time frame, but I just looked at it this morning, and we are still on the list. I can get that to you if needed. I didn't get that detail though.
I would think that'd be in the paper too, I would think. But.
Yeah, you mean if we're getting closer?
County, yeah, I would think that.
Yeah.
They would make a statement that we're now in our starting the first day. I have not heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the delay to that, starting that process was largely related to the state's database of testing results, which was way behind, and it's now gotten caught up. So if the conditions in Alameda County, now that we have the new numbers, are indicative of the slowing of the spread, then you would expect to see that 14-day period start. But as we've tried to share in multiple different ways, as a community, we need to be respecting the virus at this point in time. We need to be masked up. We need to not be out and engaging, because if we can't keep those numbers down, we'll be right back on the monitoring list very quickly, and that whole cycle then starts over again. So just asking everybody to do their part to help control those numbers. And that's done by our controlling our behaviors, even though we don't necessarily want to. And I get that. It's not much fun. So if we can continue to support implementing those guidelines, then hopefully we'll see the reaction in the data. And then that will trigger the countdown that we're all hoping for.
Okay. Any other questions?
Valerie has her hand up.
Yes, okay, just had to unmute there. I just have a clarification on one part of the MOU. This is on number 4.3. How it reads is, well, I don't want to have to read the whole thing if everybody's looking right at it, but in particular, the last sentence that says negotiations shall commence no later than August 28, 2020. To me, it almost kind of reads like any sort of getting together to discuss a reopening has to take place by August 28th for the 2021 school year. I know that's not the intention of this, but can you just explain what that actually means when it's written that way?
Sure. So we are actually negotiating today and also on August 28th. So that's about discussing what changes, if any, are taking place. Again, it's a very fluid circumstance. And so we have to look at our plans as we begin to implement, the partial, the full return. So we're in continuous discussion. We don't want to start a discussion right at that cusp. If we want to run the time concurrent, meaning the board decides we're going to start in 10 days, we do that legwork. We want to be able to have a continuous conversation with our bargaining members as to what that looks like, because guidance may change from 12 students to maybe double that, or the distance may change. So we want to continue engaging our bargaining unit members in that discussion. So we don't want to leave that also open-ended. We want to make sure that we tie those dates down as specifically as we could, so that we don't have to struggle in identifying those negotiation dates. Although we did negotiate during the summer, and that is absolutely true. We did have negotiations via email. We had some time and dates that we actually negotiated at the table. I wanted to make sure, I think we all wanted to make sure that we identified those dates and not left them to chance or other circumstances.
Yeah, you know what? My point of this is, if we were, hypothetically, numbers improve and in November, December, January, whatever, we decide to have a reopening because the numbers are better, et cetera, and we have to come back to the table. This kind of reads like August 28th is the last time to discuss anything for the 2021 school year. That's kind of my point. So that's what I was getting at. It reads a little, I don't know. It's a little bit odd in how it reads, and I don't know if that could be taken out of context, if you know what I mean.
I could appreciate that, but we could negotiate at any time that we agree to negotiate. I just wanted to nail in some dates. And again, APT or CSEA could issue a demand to negotiate letter, which means that it triggers negotiations immediately. Negotiating at the table, we just need to come to an agreement on those dates and not times in this case, but the dates. So we are going to continually sit at the table, not only on this, but also our CBA, which is fully reopened. So we have to start those negotiations as well. So it's going to be, I hate to say it, but perpetually negotiating. So I wouldn't read that we are not negotiating beyond that date. We are going to be negotiating a great deal.
Okay, thank you. I think it's just, it reads a little odd to me when I read it, but I completely understand what the intent of it is. Yeah.
There were some concerns about scheduling dates and other things and making sure that we were going to negotiate and not just wait. I think to Trustee Miller's question about the 10 days, it can run concurrent. We just need to give 10 days as we transition from a full remote to a partial to a full return. Again, once the board makes that determination, but we should be continuously engaging, and we are going to be continuously engaging in negotiations with our partners.
Yeah. Okay. I understand all that. Thank you. I think again, it was just a little, to me, it's a little odd and can be taken a different way, but thank you. Thank you for answering that.
Any more questions or comments?
I just had one other follow-up. I know this MOU doesn't address this, but is it the expectation, if there were to be more time established and the principals are making that decision, would it be, by high school, so the high schools are doing the same thing and middle schools doing the same thing? Because I don't think it would be good if the sites are doing different timing.
That's a great question. So we do have a minimum ask for our schedules. The principals have been meeting and have met to make sure that they're norming their time and their schedules. There may be some slight tweakings on the Wednesdays, but the principals are meeting and collaborating on what their sites and themselves have worked out. so that there is not a disproportionate amount of time less or more at NER sites, so that they are normed.
To echo that, that is correct. They are working collaboratively to norm between levels, elementary, middle, and high school.
Good.
Great.
We did have that question at one of our middle schools. The staff actually wanted to do 30 minutes of synchronous time, and we had to negotiate that with staff as well as with principals so that we could norm that across our middle schools. So there are our staff, some of them are eager to have more time. And as Dr. Woodward indicated, there are teachers who are doing 8 sections of 15 to 25 minutes. So it really is fluid, but there is a minimum that we are asking every site so that every parent understands that they're getting the same level of instruction norming across the school district. So the differences are very minor.
Additional questions, comments?
Thank you.
Okay. We've been asked to listen and discuss and then possible action. And so we would like to take action with the recommending to accept the MOU.
I'll go ahead and move approval of 4.1 to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Association of Pleasanton Teachers and Pleasanton Unified School District regarding the return to work for the 2021 school year in light of the novel coronavirus pandemic.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Larson?
Aye.
Trustee Arkin?
Aye.
Trustee Yee?
Aye.
And Trustee Meyer, aye. Motion carries 4.1. Okay. And I believe that's it for today. Not hearing anything else. This meeting is adjourned at 11:16.
Thank you.